Hello, I'm Bart Dessart, part of the AWI Extension SA team. In this 10-minute talk, we're going to hear from Michelle Cousins of Cousins Merino Services about EID data management.
Hello everybody, talking to you today on data management and setting up good data management systems for your livestock enterprises. When looking at data management, we're looking at establishing a really good ID system for your flocks. We're going to have a talk about understanding common terms, the software and data support systems that are out there to help you with your business, and also knowing your data collection system and what you have in place and how it works. So when we're talking about data management systems, it's important to understand that every animal will need to have at least one form of identification in order for data to be associated to that animal. So one of the important concepts of data management is obviously animal ID, and it's important that every animal has at least one form of identification in order for data to be associated to that animal. These IDs can either be visual IDs, as we've used traditionally in livestock management systems, or they can be electronic ID, which we're seeing being uptaken more regularly as a form of ID now that it has become mandatory. As IDs are used to find and update animals, they must be unique for each animal that will ever be on your farm. So this means that the electronic IDs cannot be reused, which of course is a requirement for the NLIS. And visual IDs must be unique for each animal on your property. So it's important to consider your tagging system before you order your tags each year. So why does a good tagging system matter? Having a clear and consistent tagging system is essential for effective data management. So a unique visual ID for each animal across the year will mean that you will have a good system in place, you won't have any doubling up of animals, and you have good data integrity. So using the year of birth in front of a visual tag number, so in the case of 2025, you would have 25,001 as your first animal that you tag. And this is a system that's been adopted by sheep genetics, and it is a good practice on farm to ensure that when you're looking up tags, you know exactly what animal you're looking and referencing. It avoids duplication over time. Obviously, if you just tagged each animal with a numeric value of 1 to 1,000, each year you're going to have that same number pop up within your system. So putting a year of birth code in front ensures that you have a unique ID. On your farms, of course, if you're using your year of colour tags, you're going to have that visual ID that you can differentiate it. But if we're starting to actually put that into data software systems and trying to recall animals, that's when it gets messy if you don't actually have that year code in front. You can also look at other ways. So depending on what you're setting up, you could actually use number ranges. So when you're tagging your animals, you could have a sire reference so that you can identify the sires in those groups. And those animals may be tagged, say sire 1 is tagged 1 to 100, sire 2 is 101 to 102, and so on. And that can apply to anything that you're trying to put in place on your properties. One of the important terms that you should be aware of is what's called a bucket file, and I'm sure many of you have heard that term floated around now. All a bucket file is where the tag manufacturers, when you order your tags, they will have your NLIS number associated to your electronic tag number, and if you have a visual ID number that you wanted printed on those tags as well, they'll have that associated to that already. So the file will come to you from your tag manufacturers as a CSV file, a comma separated value file. These files are compatible with all software programs and traditionally will open in Excel on your computers as well. So these files you can get retrospectively. They are a requirement of the NLIS system to have the NLIS number and the EID number recorded, and the tag manufacturers are easily able to recall past year's information and send that to you. So if you haven't been using your bucket files, you can actually retrospectively get them from your manufacturers, either through your tag reseller or contacting the manufacturer directly. So the use of those bucket files means that you don't have to manually associate the visual ID to the EID. It's automatically done for you. You can then upload that file to whatever system you're using to recall information on your property. So whether that's your stick reader, scalehead or software programs. When we're looking to manage data, it's important to have a look at how we're actually going to do that. And there is data support systems and software out there to help you. The majority of the software programs that I'm aware of that are out there at the moment, and this is an area that is expanding, is Call Collect and Call Perform by Sapien, Stockbook, AgriWeb, and Breed Elite. Some of the farm management systems that are out there don't have an individual animal component as I'm aware of as yet, but I'm sure a lot of them are working towards that. If you're recording a lot of information and doing full pedigree and then looking to submit data to sheep genetics, for example, then the data software that is out there is a really good tool to help you with that, because you're trying to crawl big data sets and a lot of information. If you're only collecting a few traits, or mainly predominantly based on weight or maybe the preg scanning, then sometimes all you need to use is Excel, or your scale heads are actually like smart computers as well. And so we have a lot of producers that would just have a look at what data they're going to be utilising on farm, and then have a look at what support system is going to work best for you. And a lot of times it's often best to start simple and build up from there. So if we're recording all this information, it's important that we take some time to understand how that data is stored on whatever system we're using, so whether that be software or on scale heads or stick readers. If we're using scale heads and stick readers especially, and it is in some software programs, it can be stored either as session or lifetime data. And it's important to spend the time to understand that. Session data is data that changes over time, so that will be like your weights. And lifetime data is data that stays with an animal for its lifetime. And so that is its ID, it's its sex, date of birth, so anything that's not going to change over time. The important thing about understanding this is when you're setting up your systems, especially if you want to recall multiple bits of data. So a good example is always pregnancy scanning. So if I want to recall multiple years all at once, instead of having to go in and open up each session to be able to see what we've done each year, we want to be able to see it all on one screen. And this is especially with scale heads. And it means what you need to do is save that data as lifetime data. So you would set up a field, pregnancy scanning 2025, and you'd enter that data in as lifetime data. And you would have done the same retrospectively for past years, 2024, 2023, so that when we come to bring those animals through and we want to have a look at their reproductive performance over the last 3 to 5 years, we can actually select information to display and have it all come up on that one session. So the preg scan results for 23, 24 and 25 all at once. So it's just spending the time to make sure when you're recording data that you're actually importing it correctly into your systems and having an understanding how that works. So using Excel in data management is a really useful tool. Most people have Excel as part of their computer software program, so it's something that generally doesn't cost you anything. It's going to enable you to download information off your readers and spend some time data sorting and analysing some of the information that you've collected. And for a lot of people, it's all they need to be able to manipulate and identify their higher performing or lower performing animals in their flocks. So it's cost effective, it's customisable, it can help you make some improved decision making. It's integrated with your EID readers, so it means that you can download information, you can co-join those information blocks over separate sessions or years or periods, have a look at that, and then you can upload it back to your readers with some decision making that you've done in the comfort of your office. So that's setting up your draft files, identifying which way you want to take our animals based on different traits, or if you've just identified them as like Tops, Mainline and Culls. So lots of different ways you can utilise Excel to manage your data. So just in conclusion, when we're looking at managing our data, it's really worth realising that you need to take the time to understand what you're collecting and how you're going to use it on your property. No data's worth collecting if it's not going to be used some way to influence your enterprise. So take the time to understand your data management system, set up a good system from the start, and make sure you always back up and save your files before editing. That's a top tip from me after having some data loss at times. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle, for sharing your experience and professional knowledge of choosing the right EID equipment and tags. This 10-minute talk was made possible by Australian Wool Innovation, the Department of Primary Industries and Regions SA, and the South Australian Sheep Industry Fund.